Welcome back to our design tutorial for creating our laser cut photo frame. Okay, where we last left off, we had finished putting our rectangular cutting paths into our cutting layer. We are going to create a new layer that's going to be red, and that is where we are going to place all of the artwork, text, and other things that we want to engrave on our frame. So to do that, we will find this little thing here that says create new layer. Looks like a folded page, and we click on it one time. It will create a new layer. We double click the text and we can name this layer engraving. We will click the eyeball next to the cutting layer so that we hide it. Doing this prevents us from accidentally deleting or moving or doing anything else with the two paths that we created in the first segment. So now that we have successfully hidden our cutting layer, we can move on to the next step of adding text and clip art. If you remember from the previous video, this area here is what will remain after we cut off the edges and we cut out the inside of our photo map. So there are a few tools I want to show you. The first one is the text tool. If we click on the text tool, we need to make sure we have our engraving layer selected. If you don't have the layer selected, you saw that little symbol before that said you can't do anything, you have to have a layer selected. So we can click and drag to create what's called a text box. And we can type whatever we want in here. In order for my text that I've typed to look the way that I have it over here, there are a few text tools that I need to use. You can click multiple times to select your text, and once you do that, you will see that along the top are some simple text options. You can decide to center your text, you can make it bigger or smaller. You can also change the font. Now, what happened here was that the size of the font, when I changed it, caused it to be bigger than this red bounding box. All we have to do to make the text reappear is click on our arrow tool, grab this little guy here, and pull down. That will then allow all of the text to be viewable. In order to move your text around, you can just click and drag. And if you notice that the green guides pop up to help you center your text based on the center of the work. If you want to edit your text once again, make sure that you've selected the type tool before clicking inside and redoing your text. At this point, you can add additional artwork such as clip art or images from the internet. The images that I used in my photo frame, this one was one that I found from Google. I just copied the image off of Google Image Search and then pasted it in my project. I'm going to copy it once again by doing Control-C. I'm going to paste it into my project to show you how to move it around. Obviously, we do not want the image of the racetrack to be in the middle of the area that we're cutting away. We can click and drag it to where we want it. Another option for moving artwork when it's selected, because obviously if you click away from it, you'll see it's no longer selected. When your artwork is selected, you can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard to fine-tune the location of your artwork. The star that I used to mark the area that we sat in, I actually used the shape generator tool that was built right into Illustrator. Prior to this, we used the rectangle, but if we click and hold on the rectangle, you can see the option for the star tool. When you click and drag, you can see that it generates a 5-pointed star. Depending on how you drag the mouse, it will rotate the star and scale it. On the top, we can see here that it's filled in and it has no line weight. When I click back on my arrow tool, I can drag my star to put it exactly where I want it. While this star was made in the same way using the same shape tool that the rectangle was used, because this star doesn't have that 0.001 stroke weight, the laser is not going to cut it out, it is going to engrave it like a black shape here. I'm going to copy and paste my artwork that I found. You can select more than one thing by holding down the Shift tool, or the Shift key, while you click. So Control C for copy and Control V for paste. When I've selected more than one thing at a time, I like to use the arrow keys to move around. Sometimes using the mouse can be a little bit tricky. Now for these two shapes, I just eyeballed it. I actually did not use the guides because they're not symmetrical. And last but not least, I'm going to click outside to deselect, then grab my erase car, copy it, paste, and then click and drag and move it up here. So, laying out your artwork for engraving is really up to you. You can type text, you can copy and paste artwork from the internet, or you can use the built-in shape tools that are in Illustrator. It is entirely up to you. Anything you put here is going to be engraved by the laser. Keep in mind, do not put anything in the middle here because we are going to be cutting this out. More to come in the next tutorial.